September 19th, 1944, just east of Nancy, France. The mud has a smell. It's a thick, cloying odor of churned earth, cordite, and iron. For the men of Dog Company, 11th Infantry Regiment, huddled in waterlogged foxholes, it is the smell of death. For 3 days they have been pinned here, unable to move forward, unable to retreat. The reason for their paralysis sits on the high ground a mile away, a position the maps have designated Hill 282, but the men call it the Anvil. On its crest, nestled behind formidable earthworks, is a battery of German artillery. Not just any artillery. These are the dreaded 88s, the jack-of-all-trades killers of the Wehrmacht, cannons that can crack a Sherman tank from a mile away, or fill the air with deadly shrapnel. Every time Sergeant Frank Petrocelli dares to raise his head, a whip-crack sound snaps over his helmet, followed by the deep, resonant boom of the gun that fired it. He doesn't need to see them to know they're there. He can feel them. A low, persistent thrum of German power that keeps 1,000 men buried in French mud. Supply lines are stretched thin. Morale is a currency they can no longer afford. Every shell that screams overhead is a reminder of their helplessness. They are caught, held fast, and being systematically bled white by an enemy they cannot reach. The ground shudders again. Another direct hit on B Company's line. More screams swallowed by the indifferent gray sky. 20 miles away, at an improvised airfield near Toul, the same sky looks different. Here, it represents a highway. Captain Jack Harding, call sign Ripper 1, runs a gloved hand along the aluminum skin of his P-51D Mustang. The plane, christened Agony, feels cold and damp under his touch. The air is heavy with the promise of more rain. He's a veteran of 60 missions, a man whose features seem permanently etched with a mixture of fatigue and fierce concentration. He's seen the Flak over Schweinfurt, danced with Messerschmitts in the high, thin air above the clouds. But the briefing he just left has his stomach in a cold knot. The request came directly from Patton's 3rd Army Command. It wasn't a request, it was a plea. A division was being chewed to pieces by a fortified artillery battery. Standard bombing runs had failed. The position was too well dug in, too well defended by a perimeter of light anti-aircraft guns. They had sent B-26 Marauders yesterday. 2 were lost, the rest driven off by a screen of flak so dense the pilots described it as a solid black wall. The target was impossible, a suicide run, and they were asking for volunteers. Harding had been the only one to raise his hand, not out of bravado, but out of a cold, calculating anger. He had seen what those 88s did to infantry. He'd seen the convoys of trucks, not carrying supplies to the front, but carrying the broken bodies of young men away from it. His wingman, Lieutenant Danny Deacon Miller, approaches, his face a mask of concern. "Jack, you can't be serious. They said the flak towers have interlocking fields of fire. You can't get above them, you can't get around them." Harding pulls on his helmet, the worn leather familiar against his skin. He doesn't look at Danny. He looks at the target map again, a small rectangle of doom marked in red grease pencil. He traces a line with his finger, not over the hill, but straight at its base. "Who said anything about going over?" he says, his voice a low growl. The ground crew finishes loading the 650 caliber machine guns, belts of armor-piercing incendiary rounds feeding into the wings. Each bullet is a metal fist, ready to punch through steel. But first, you have to get close enough to throw the punch. The target wasn't just the 9 heavy guns. It was the hornet's nest of 20mm cannons protecting them. It was a fortress designed to kill anything that approached from the sky. Harding intended to approach from the ground. He swings himself up into the cockpit. The familiar smells of oil, metal, and high-octane fuel fill his senses. He straps himself in, a ritual of clicks and pulls that feels both reassuring and final. He glances at the photograph of his wife, tucked into the corner of the instrument panel. Her smile is a beacon from another world, a world without mud and 88s. The Merlin engine coughs to life with a gout of blue smoke, then settles into its signature powerful roar. Through the canopy, he gives Deacon a thumbs up. Deacon shakes his head, but climbs into his own Mustang. He'll fly top cover, a lonely spectator to either a miracle or a slaughter. As Harding taxis onto the runway, the radio crackles. It's the ground controller. "Ripper 1, you are cleared for takeoff. Godspeed, Captain." Harding's reply is short, clipped. "Ripper 1, rolling." The Mustang surges forward, pressing him back into his seat, a beast of speed and violence unleashed. He's not just flying a mission, he's going to settle a score.
The ascent is short and violent. Harding keeps the Mustang's nose pointed sharply upwards, clawing for altitude, not to cruise, but to hide. He climbs into the thick, bruised purple underbelly of the low-hanging cloud bank that stretches across Lorraine. At 8,000 feet, he levels off, flying blind in a world of gray mist. Down below, hidden by the clouds, Sergeant Petrocelli and the Man of Dog Company are enduring another barrage. The earth bucks and heaves, dirt rains down on their helmets. For them, the sky is empty, promising no salvation. They are alone. Up in the ethereal silence of the clouds, Harding is anything but calm. He's flying on instruments and instinct, his eyes scanning the gauges, his ears attuned to the steady rhythm of the Merlin engine. This is the easy part. The plan forming in his mind is a radical departure from every rulebook, every training manual. Air Force doctrine was simple. Altitude is life. To attack a ground target, you dive from a position of safety, using speed and gravity as your allies, and then climb away before the enemy can draw a bead on you. But the Germans on Hill 282 expected that. Their entire defense was built around that single, predictable axis of attack. Their guns were sighted for the sky. "Deacon, you with me?" Harding's voice is steady over the radio. "Right behind you, Ripper. Can't see a damn thing in this soup. Stay up here. Circle at the edge of the cloud base. If I stir them up, you keep their heads down. But do not, I repeat, do not follow me down. Is that clear?" A pause. "Crystal, Jack. Just be careful." The unspoken words hang in the air between them. "Don't get yourself killed." Harding checks his map, his compass. He's closing in on the coordinates. He can feel the target getting closer, a magnetic pull of danger. It's time. He eases the throttle back slightly and pushes the stick forward. The Mustang's nose dips, and it slips out of the bottom of the clouds like a ghost. The world reappears in a flash of green and brown. He's at 2,000 feet. Below him, the French countryside is a patchwork of fields, forests, and shattered villages. He can see the front lines, a scarred, pockmarked ribbon of earth where two armies are locked in their brutal embrace. And there, in the distance, is Hill 282. Even from here, it looks menacing, its summit bristling with the angular shapes of gun emplacements. This is the moment of decision. Standard procedure would be to begin a shallow dive from this altitude. But Harding does the opposite. He pushes the stick further forward, the engine roaring as he accelerates not towards the target, but straight down. 1,500 feet, 1,000 feet. The ground rushes up to meet him. At 500 feet, most pilots would be pulling up. Harding keeps pushing. The details of the landscape sharpen, from a map into a world. He can see individual trees, the ruts in a muddy farm track, a startled flock of birds exploding from a hedgerow. At 100 feet, he finally begins to level out, but he doesn't stop. He keeps dropping. 50 feet, 30 feet. He is now below the level of the surrounding treetops. The world transforms into a high-speed blur of green and brown. He is no longer flying over the terrain. He is flying through it. The Mustang becomes a silver projectile hurtling down a corridor of foliage. This is the Green Tunnel, a terrifying high-stakes corridor where a single moment of inattention, a single unseen power line or church steeple means instant annihilation. He's racing across the French countryside at over 350 miles per hour. The tips of his propellers are just feet from the ground, the prop wash flattening the long grass in his wake. To his left and right, trees flash past in a dizzying picket fence. He has to use the rudder pedals to steer, weaving the P-51 like a sports car on a winded road. He thunders over a small stone bridge, so low he can see the moss on the ancient stones. He is utterly invisible to anyone on Hill 282. Radar of the era is useless against a target this low, lost in the ground clutter. Human spotters, scanning the skies, would see nothing. He is a phantom, a whisper of an engine that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere. His heart is a trip hammer against his ribs, but his hands are rock steady on the stick and throttle. This isn't reckless, it's a cold, hard calculation. The German targeting computers, the Commando Garrett 40, are sophisticated pieces of machinery. They can calculate the speed, altitude, and direction of an incoming bomber and predict where to aim the guns. But they are designed with a fatal assumption that the enemy will be in the sky. Their mechanical gears and dials simply cannot compute a target solution for an aircraft that is at the same elevation as the gunners themselves. Harding is betting his life that the machine is as inflexible as the doctrine that created it. He is 10 miles out, a streak of silver lightning flying under the storm.
On Hill 282, Oberleutnant Klaus Richter sips lukewarm coffee from a tin mug and scans the sky. He is the commander of the Flak of Thailand, a veteran of the Russian front, who trusts his instincts more than he trusts the weather reports. The low cloud cover is a nuisance. It could provide cover for Allied Jabos, fighter bombers, to make a quick pass. But his defenses are, he believes, perfect. His 9 88mm guns are arranged in a star pattern, providing overlapping fire on the American lines. Surrounding them are 6 Flak 38 mounts, each with 4 20mm cannons. They are his eagles, ready to shred any aircraft that dares to approach. His men are disciplined, battle-hardened. They have swatted Allied bombers from the sky like flies. They are masters of this hill. A strange sound begins to permeate the air. It's not the familiar drone of high-altitude engines. It's a tearing, ripping noise, a savage buzz that seems to be coming from the west, but it's difficult to place. A spotter in the forward trench raises his binoculars, sweeping the gray ceiling of the clouds. Nothing. He lowers them, confused. The sound is getting louder, a terrifying crescendo that vibrates in the teeth. It's not coming from above. It sounds like it's coming straight at them. Sergeant Petroselli hears it too. He lifts his head from the mud, his heart seizing with a sudden, irrational hope. He's heard the sound of P-47s and Mustangs before, but never like this. This is different. This sound is angry. It's personal. It's the sound of something moving impossibly fast and impossibly close. He risks a look over the lip of his foxhole, his eyes scanning the base of Hill 282. For Captain Jack Harding, the world has compressed into a narrow tunnel of forward vision. The final landmark, a ruined chapel, flashes past his right wing. He's a mile from the target. He pulls back gently on the stick, just enough to clear a small rise, then pushes the nose back down, hugging the contours of the earth. He is the unseen predator, the shark moving beneath the waves. Then he's there. He crests the final ridgeline, and the entire German battery is laid out before him like a horrifying diorama. For a split second, nobody moves. The German gun crews, caught in the open, stare in slack-jawed disbelief. They see not a plane in the sky, but the impossible vision of a fighter aircraft at eye level, its huge four-bladed propeller seemingly about to mow them down. It's a violation of the laws of physics, of the very nature of warfare. The spell breaks. Chaos erupts. Oberleutnant Richter drops his coffee mug, screaming, Tiefflieger, Feuer auf alles! Low-level aircraft, fire at will! The crews of the 20mm Flak Feeling cannons are the first to react. They spin their weapons around, the quad barrels traversing with frantic speed, but the guns were built to be elevated to point towards the heavens. The gunners crank their traverse wheels, trying to lower the barrels, but the mechanisms fight them. They can't get low enough. The gun mounts physically bottom out, their barrels pointing uselessly into the sky, or at best, hitting the sandbag revetments in front of them. One desperate gunner opens fire anyway, a stream of red tracers arcing harmlessly 100 feet over Harding's canopy. The crews on the massive 88s are in even worse shape. Their guns are designed for long-range, high-angle fire. To engage a target moving at 350 miles per hour at zero altitude is a mathematical impossibility. They cannot traverse the heavy barrels fast enough. The gun layers spin their wheels, cursing, but the Silver Mustang is a phantom, a blur that their sights can't catch. The German radio network explodes into a cacophony of panic. Richter is on his field telephone, his voice cracking with fury and disbelief. He's in the dead zone. Depress the barrels, depress them. But the message from his gun chiefs is the same, a chorus of desperation. Zu niedrig, it is too niedrig. Too low, he's too low. On the command net, the panic spreads. Another commander from a nearby battery, listening to the screams from Hill 282, shouts into his microphone, "What is his altitude? Report his altitude." The reply from Richter's frantic radio operator becomes the epitaph for the entire position. It's a scream of pure frustration, broadcast across the sector for all to hear. "We can't hit him! He's flying too low!" Harding sees it all in a flash. The scrambling crews, the guns pointed in the wrong direction, the beautiful, terrifying paralysis of a perfect defense rendered utterly impotent. He has them. He thumbs the red button on his control stick. The entire world in front of him erupts in a storm of fire and sound.
The 6.5 caliber machine guns in the Mustang's wings open up as one. The sound is not a rattle, but a deafening, visceral roar, like a giant tearing a sheet of steel in half. The aircraft shudders from the recoil. A torrent of 4,000 rounds per minute, a mix of armor-piercing and incendiary ammunition, hurls itself across the short distance to the German gun pits. Harding's first target is the Flak Feeling on the far left. He doesn't aim for the gun, he aims for the crew. He watches through his gun sight as the stream of tracers, glowing like angry red wasps, converges on the sandbagged position. The half-inch thick slugs chew through the sandbags as if they were paper. They rip through the thin metal of the gun shield, through the ammunition boxes stacked nearby, and through the men serving the weapon. The world of the gun crew simply ceases to exist in a hurricane of metal fragments and exploding 20mm shells. The entire position vanishes in a flash of white-hot magnesium and black smoke. He doesn't linger. His thumb never leaves the firing button. He is not just a pilot anymore. He is the tip of a spear, a human aiming mechanism for a flying machine gun platform. He makes a slight adjustment with his rudder pedals, skidding the Mustang's nose a few degrees to the right. The stream of death shifts with him. The next target is the first of the massive 88s. The crew is frantically trying to swing the long barrel around, but they are far too slow.
Harding's bullets strike the base of the gun first, sparking off the heavy steel of the cruciform mount. Then the stream walks up the barrel, punching a series of neat, dark holes in the metal. It finds the gun shield, shredding it, and then the cluster of men behind it. An open box of high-explosive shells waiting to be loaded sits next to the breach. A single incendiary round is all it takes. The resulting explosion is immense. A huge, blossoming orange fireball erupts from the gun pit, lifting the entire 9-ton artillery piece into the air. It flips over, trailing fire and smoke, before crashing back to earth in a twisted wreck. The shockwave rocks Harding's Mustang, a violent slap of air that he feels through the fuselage and into the pit of his stomach. Shrapnel, hot and jagged, clatters harmlessly off his armored windscreen. 1 down, 8 to go. On the ground, Sergeant Petrocelli and his men are on their feet, screaming, cheering, oblivious to any danger. They are witnessing a vengeful god tear their tormentors apart. The constant, oppressive thunder of the German 88s is being replaced by the righteous roar of the Mustang's 50 cals and the staccato rhythm of secondary explosions. From the German perspective, it is a nightmare made real. They are being slaughtered by an enemy they cannot fight. They are expert anti-aircraft gunners, the elite of the Luftwaffe, reduced to helpless targets. Some crews abandon their guns and dive for cover, trying to burrow into the earth. Others, driven by duty or terror, continue to try and fight, their efforts futile. Oberlieutenant Richter stands frozen for a moment, his perfect fortress being dismantled piece by piece in a matter of seconds. A stray round from Harding's third target, another Flak ricochets and tears through his command post, silencing his panic transmissions forever. Harding is a machine of pure focus. Gun 2, Gun 3. He flies a straight, unwavering line, a scythe cutting through wheat. His propeller wash whips up dirt, smoke, and debris, creating a whirlwind of chaos in his wake. Each press of the trigger is precise, a burst of 3 or 4 seconds. He watches for the telltale signs of destruction, the flash of an ammo fire, the collapse of a gun crew, the bloom of an oil fire from a prime mover parked too close to the action. He ignores the small arms fire that is now peppering his aircraft. A few rifle rounds are meaningless. He brings his fire to bear on the 4th and 5th 88s, which are positioned close together. He rakes the stream of bullets back and forth between them. Men fall. Ammunition cooks off. One gun's breech explodes, sending the barrel cartwheeling away. The other slums silently on its wrecked carriage. He's been on the target for less than 15 seconds. He's halfway through the battery. The air is thick with the smell of cordite and burning fuel. The impossible is happening. A single plane is wiping out an entire artillery battalion, and there is absolutely nothing they can do to stop him.
The Mustang screams past the midway point of the German battery. Harding is flying in a self-made tunnel of smoke and fire. Wreckage from his previous targets litters the ground. The 6th and 7th guns fall in the same manner as the others. A quick, brutal burst of 50 caliber fire that rips apart men and machines with contemptuous ease. The German return fire has all but ceased. The surviving soldiers are either dead, wounded, or have broken and fled, running for their lives from the roaring demon that came from nowhere. He lines up the final 2 88s at the far end of the perimeter. These crews have had a few precious seconds more to react. One gun actually manages to get its barrel depressed almost enough. A gunner, ignoring all procedure, yanks the firing lanyard. The 88mm cannon fires with a deafening roar. Because the gun isn't properly aimed or braced, the shell screams wide, passing harmlessly behind Harding's tail. The recoil, however, sends the unbalanced gun carriage crashing backwards off its mount, rendering it useless. Harding grants the gunner a final fatal burst for his effort. The last gun is silenced before its crew can even attempt to fire. He has flown the entire length of the position. 9 artillery pieces and their supporting flak cannons, the iron fist that had held an American division hostage, are now nothing more than burning, smoking pyres of scrap metal. The entire pass has taken less than 30 seconds. As he clears the last emplacement, Harding finally pulls back on the stick. The agony responds instantly, its immense power lifting it from the ground-hugging attack into a steep climbing bank. He rockets skyward, the G-force pressing him deep into his seat. For the first time, he allows himself a look back. Below him, Hill 282 is a scene of utter devastation. Black smoke pours from a dozen different fires. There is no movement, no resistance, just silence. The radio, which had been filled with German panic, is now alive with American voices. At first, it's just the stunned voice of a forward air controller on the ground with dog company. Jesus Christ, did anyone see that?
Ripper 1, status, are you hit? Harding levels out at 5,000 feet, his breathing heavy, the adrenaline beginning to recede, leaving a profound, shaking exhaustion in its wake. He checks his gauges. Engine temperature is good, oil pressure is stable. The fuselage is likely riddled with small caliber holes, but the Mustang is a tough bird. Ripper 1 is clear of the target, he says, his voice raspy. Target destroyed. Repeat, target is completely destroyed. Deacon's voice cuts in, filled with awe. Jack, I saw the whole thing. My God, I've never seen anything like it. They never fired a shot that counted. They couldn't, Harding replies. The core of his gamble, now a proven fact. They couldn't get the angle. On the ground, Sergeant Petroselli stands fully upright, heedless of any potential sniper fire. The constant, soul-crushing pressure that has dominated his life for the past 72 hours is gone. The silence from Hill 282 is the most beautiful sound he has ever heard. All around him, other men are emerging from their foxholes, their faces turned upwards, watching the silver fighter plane circle once over the battlefield, a guardian angel who had descended into hell on their behalf. Someone starts to clap, then another. Soon the entire front line of Dog Company is cheering, their voices carrying faintly across the ravaged landscape. Harding doesn't hear them. He sees the path forward is now clear. He keys his microphone one last time, his message directed to the ground controller. Tell Dog Company the anvil is broken. The road is open. Give 'em hell. He turns his Mustang west, towards the setting sun and the safety of his base. He flies alone, a solitary speck against the vast, indifferent sky. He left a trail of destruction behind him, but he opened a path for thousands of men to live, to fight another day. He flew too low. He flew at eye level. And in doing so, he proved that sometimes the most audacious, the most insane tactic is the only one that can break through an impossible wall. The legend of the pilot who cut the grass to silence the guns would be told in hushed, reverent tones in the muddy foxholes and field hospitals for the rest of the war. A testament to the fact that courage is not the absence of fear, but the calculation that some things are more important than your own survival.